Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for getting up bright and early, or if you're in America, staying up, and in Australia in the afternoon. Today's session, we're going to talk about attachment and interpretation. And towards the second half, I'm going to give a bit more of an overview as to the philosophy behind mindfulness meditation and how it fits in with the overall journey that we're all on. But for now, I thought what we could do is we could jump into a meditation to start off with. Just as a quick recap before that, what is mindfulness meditation? It's the experience of the moment without judgment or interpretation. And you could be mindful of many different things. You could be mindful of your body. You could be mindful of your breath. You could be mindful of your feelings, which is your interface between your body and your mind. And you could be mindful of specific objects. And this meditation that we're going to do to start with is actually a mindfulness meditation on our body, using our body. And really what we want to focus on is our experience of it. We're going to be really tapping into our experiential mind without the narrative. So if you look at my hands and you look at me from when I go from here and I move all the way over to here, as you watch that, what part of you was watching that? Was that the experiential mind or was that the narrative mind? It was just experiential, right? Just put your hands up if that's what you noticed. You were just in the moment, you were just observing. There was no story. And it's that simple. Hi, James. So what we're going to do is I'll do this guided meditation on this body scan. And we're really just going to focus into our body. And you could let go of what we've learned in the other few lessons just for now. And just focus on this guided meditation and what you experience. Yeah? All right. So if you're ready, get into a position where you're comfortable. Make sure that your neck is stacked straight on top of your spine. And tuck your tongue behind your teeth at the top of the roof of your mouth. And take a couple of deep breaths. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing the process to go through into a meditation to start. So take a couple of deep breaths. And notice the weight of your body on your sit bones and the contact of your feet on the floor. Take a moment to be thankful for the time and the space and the intention that you put towards being here now. And remind yourself of your own personal benefits that you get from practicing meditation. We're going to call our attention now to our senses. First of all, what can we hear around us? What can we smell? What can we taste? Notice the tactile sensations of your body against the chair or the floor that you're sitting on. Against the fabric of your clothing. If you have your hands or your arms on your knees, feel the weight of your arms. Try and separate that feeling from your legs below. And then switch it. Try and feel your legs or your knees and the heaviness of your hands or your arms upon it. Is it easy to separate out the two sensations? And any sound that arises in the background, just notice it and release it. Noticing that when your attention wanders, your awareness calls it back to center with gratitude and a reward. And we're going to start this scan now. It's kind of like the scan that you get on the computer. And it's a beautiful wave of energy that's going to go from the top of our head and scan all the way down to the tips of our feet. And as it does so, it brings a really nice sense of restfulness and relaxation. I experience mine as a warmth and almost like a vibrational energy. So starting now from the tip of your head, I want you to imagine a scan of energy that just slowly drifts down, starting from the top of your head. Feel it go over the crown of your head, across your cranium. Feel it scanning down past your eyes, slowly past your nose and your ears, down across your face, slowly to your chin. And as it passes, it relaxes everything it contacts. Down your neck, approaching your shoulders. Notice any tensions that you feel and just breathe into them. Down across the tips of your shoulders, further down so it's encompassing your arms too. Across your collarbone, it's gradual warmth moving comfortably and slowly downwards. Across your chest and your arms. Moving slowly down towards your solar plexus and your rib cage. Down towards your stomach area and your elbow. Scanning down towards your navel. Being aware of any discomfort and just sending your breath there. Focusing down your arms, down towards your buttocks and your thighs and your hips. Slowly melting down your legs. And your hands. Scanning downwards to your knees. And your calves. Feeling any tensions just slowly melt away. As you scan towards your heels and your feet and your toes. And I want you to use your awareness to call your breath and your attention towards any spaces in your body that feel discomfort. and to send your breath there. Send your attention there. Breathe into it and release any tension. For where your attention goes, energy flows. And just allow that tension to release. Shift in your chair if you need. And listen to what your body is telling you. And if your mind wanders, notice where it is. Is there any narrative attached to it? Give it a label and bring it back to center, thankfully, rewarding your awareness for noticing. Notice where you're at with your body right now. And now I'm going to call your attention to gratitude. And I want you to notice any shifts that happen in your body as you experience this. I want you to think of one person for whom you are really grateful. And I want you to imagine them there in front of you. And I want you to think of all the things that you're grateful about them for, or grateful for about them. And if it helps, imagine them looking at you. And I want you to list all of the things in your life that you're grateful for right now. Notice what part of your body that gratitude is coming from. And what shifts it's creating throughout your body. And in your own time and when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes. Place yourself back in the room and open your eyes. Okay, I'm going to ask you all to unmute yourself and to share with me what you noticed about that experience in terms of your experiences and any narratives that came up, or just your experience overall. Would you feel comfortable sharing if we go around the room? Kayleen, starting with you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful, and I did not want to come back. I just absolutely love that one. I noticed it was interesting because when you said about here, I could hear nothing, and then at the far end of this room, there's a clock on the wall, and I could hear the tick, 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 which I normally can't hear at all. So that was interesting, the silence, and then being able to break through that. I love that scanning, and I felt, and as it came down, my shoulders dropped, and then you said your shoulders relax, like just like seconds apart, and it was I was feeling what you were taking me through, which was beautiful. I centered on the heart when I had to look deep, and there was a lot of awareness there and observation. However, then after a while, it became, okay, so what are you going to do with this awareness? And the narrative started to come in relation to taking this. And I just had to keep saying, thank you, I'm aware of this, and go, and we'll come back. So, but that's a normal practice for me. Like I normally go into these things and I get that peace and that awareness, and then I start solving. So trying to not do that as much. I think that's why I just felt so relaxed, and I just wanted to stay in that moment, because I was acknowledging the narrative coming in and wanting to solve, not so much solve, but what am I going to do with this new knowledge that I have and new awareness, and trying to say, it's okay, talk to me later. Was so peaceful and just allowed me to keep reflecting and putting all this energy in the heart space. And yeah, I think that's why I just wanted to stay there in that moment and not come back.
Thank you, Kayleen. And we'll talk about, later on, we'll talk about what happens when you have observations and insights. And rather than drop them and ignore them forever, what we tend to do, and how that forms part of the meditation practice. Yeah. Matthew?
Yep.
How did you find that?
They're quite interesting this morning. Because when scanning the body and all that is becoming really familiar, so I was really drifting off and getting into the in the moment space, I would guess. But then when you started to ask like these things about gratitude and in thinking about someone you're really grateful for, all of a sudden it brought me back into kind of a reality that it almost became too specific, because I was like, oh, I'm thinking about someone, imagining it, and then it sort of brought me back into the now almost too much, and I drifted back off. So yeah, I didn't think that an instruction like that would bring me back to thinking instead of feeling. It was almost like thinking about someone, and that someone that came into my mind, and then was really specific. And then came back, and then almost too early we were asked to come back into the room. That's a bit of the sequence of how I went through it this morning. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
So when you moved into the gratitude meditation and you thought of this specific person, and it all got very, very now and present, what actually went through your mind before you drifted back out? Was it, I don't like this, or I do like this? What was the...
No, very simple. Moments where I realized I'm going back too much in the now rationally. I accept that that is something that can happen during a session like this, and then by just I guess labeling it and saying, oh yeah, this is happening, it's fine, it will go away, and with that person in mind, I will probably drift off again, and it's okay, no judgment there or something, no panic, no, it's normal. But it surprised me because usually when I'm in that state, I guess it's getting harder to be interrupted. Because I'm so comfortable there and usually it's what I maybe said before. I use the Headspace app quite a lot, and then I recently realized that the instructions that come through the app start to distract me because they come at moments and times where I don't need it anymore. And just realizing that, I'm more focused on how can I do this completely myself and go even deeper into the experience. So I guess maybe there's a moment now that I don't need this guidance anymore. That's probably what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And mindfulness meditation is really good for that because there's so much that you can focus on that you don't need to have an app unless you want to. Just a comment on the drifting. When we're in this space, the idea is that we have moment-to-moment awareness. It's less about drifting. And there's one danger that they talk about in mindfulness meditation, or certainly from the Buddhist perspective, which is when you are able to drop into that space of calm abiding, that luminosity, that spaciousness, that feeling of peace. It's very, very seductive, and lots of people just get stuck there. It's like being blissed out, and so they do warn you of the dangers, and they do kind of have meditations as a sequence of different types of meditation, just to make sure that you don't get stuck into that space where you're not generating positive karma and moving past that centered internal presence. Does that make sense? Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
But it sounds like you're very, very present, and you have very, very sharp ability to drop into that space. Amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of addictive indeed. But I get the point that if you're just only lost in that space and nothing else comes, then what is the purpose of the exercise? I get that. Yeah. All right.
Cool. Thank you, James. James, you're still on mute. Oh.
My internet connection isn't particularly good, so apologies for that. So I think that the start of the experience was quite similar to what we've done but previously, and the kind of zoning into different experiences is something which is becoming more natural. It took me a while to kind of get into it, and I had a lot of sort of narratives going on. Eventually kind of got there. The gratitude element of the meditation kind of was a bit of a game changer, because it did really flip the way that I was experiencing my body, as well as giving me a focus which was, I don't know, I felt that focus was very positive and quite insightful as well. I tend to have an internal narrative around, my family, but it was quite nice to be able to take the time to think of each individual that I have and kind of sense the gratitude that I feel towards them, and that definitely impacted the way that I was kind of actually just perceiving my overall experiences. So that was a very positive sort of turn of events.
Thank you, James. So it's really about the way that we think impacts us physiologically. You know, it affects our whole mood, affects our body. Thank you. Susie, what about you?
Yeah, it was good. I think kind of like James, I kind of, it was kind of a little bit harder to get into it than it was maybe last week when we tried this. I felt like I was kind of stuck up here. Like I was trying to move everything down my body, but like, and I've done that something similar in the past and like yoga stuff, and usually it's like you can feel this progressive kind of body relaxation. I was kind of stuck up here, and I don't know if that's because of what that's for, but individually, like when we did the exercise around like the hands on the legs, I could really, that was quite nice, kind of focusing on that and kind of dissociating those two feelings. You know, so I think that, I guess everybody, a slightly different tactic works for everyone. But yeah, it was kind of hard for me to kind of pull it back in, maybe because there was a lot going on in my mind because I was focusing on my body and I was pulling it back in, and you know, all these different things. But yeah, but when we started focusing on the gratitude, I noticed that my the feelings I had, they kind of all went into the center a little bit, right? Which was really quite nice, kind of like my gut and heart, like, you know, thinking about people that I'm grateful for and I care about. And that was really quite nice. I could really definitely feel that. So, so yeah, so it was good. It's good to kind of try these different ways to kind of engage it and center. But yeah, this was a little bit harder for me to get into, but there were some bits that I quite enjoyed. So yeah.
Great awareness. Great awareness throughout. Darren?
Hello. Yeah, that was very enjoyable. The body scan part, I tend to struggle with, especially I can't feel anything as such. I can't conjure up any warmth or tingles or anything like that. I just imagine that sort of 1920s robot image where you get those energy things are sort of going up and down. But just trying to focus on the slow, just trying to focus on feeling different parts of the body as it goes from top to bottom. And then I kind of got confused when it reaches, when you get to your torso and past your shoulders, and I'm all, where exactly should I focus? You know, is it my arms or my torso, and you know, elbow down to, you know? So I'm kind of switching across lots of part of my body where it gets a bit complicated, and then it gets easier again when it's only just the legs to focus on and down to the toes. So that was an interesting experience. And then it was easier when we got into the gratitude stuff. Like Susie says, it was very much more focused around the heart area, and I wasn't trying to force anyone in particular. You know, there was some surprising names, surprising people, individuals that popped in there. And then I thought I better think of the kids. So then they popped in as well. You know, so that was quite interesting too, and enjoyable. So I didn't want to come out of that one either. Could have done that for another 5 minutes at least, I think. There you go.
Thank you so much, Darren. Sophie, how about you?
Thank you for this guidance, and that's very interesting to hear all the testimony of each of the group. Actually, while Darren was speaking, I totally feel the opposite, which makes me laugh, because I mean, I think it's enjoyable to see how people can react differently. So for my experience, I totally get into the scan. I love the scan because since I have free spirit, I'm always, I'm very often wandering. So this scan helps me to focus. And actually, on the opposite, then gratitude was really when I could be stuck, because since I'm doing on a regular basis meditation, when you start the guidance, I feel like I love metaphor. You know, as a coach, I use a lot of metaphor. But what I feel very grateful and thank you for that is that I get to be like learning a language and being better and better every session, each session. So I feel like riding a horse. I'm getting onto the horse, and now I know how to move and to dance with that. So when you give all the guidance, for me, it's already, I'm clicking in, so I can proceed to the scan, and this really brings me peace. I can stabilize myself, the mind. And then when you ask to think about gratitude, then I was like, I don't know if I want or I can. And then after my mind started to wander, like, oh, this person, but maybe this or that, or maybe I'm getting confused. Then thanks to the breathing, I was able to come back. And what I can share and everything that I take away on each meditation session is how the training of breathing and coming back to the breathing is helping to stabilize the mind and have this feeling of getting really a nice peace to go back to the meditation. So it's very pleasant. It's a very pleasant feeling of being tuned with yourself, with myself, and feeling this quiet, peaceful feeling of it's okay. So yeah.
Yeah. And I did I chose the body scan specifically because I wanted to sort of call attention to any narrative that we have within ourselves about any discomfort in the body, and then juxtapose that whole gratitude so that we can start to notice shifts and how our energy and our feelings shifts according to what we thought. So there was a deliberate move from one across to the other. Yeah. Shay, what about you?
I really enjoyed that. I liked the way you described the body scan. I don't know that I've ever heard it done in that way, kind of the computer scan, and that's how I experienced it, sort of like you see that bar sort of moving across as things are loading. That's what it felt like going down, or what was in my mind. But the experience was almost like a light moving down my body. And I think that was due to the way you described it in the beginning. Something you said at the very start, maybe a beautiful light. So I appreciated that. It was a different experience. I've done body scans many times in meditations, but never one quite like that. That was pretty neat. And then I also liked the focus on the experience when you asked us to hone in on where in our bodies we were feeling the gratitude. I realized then it was coming like from my solar plexus, from my center, and each time I would think of something new, it was almost like a burst of energy coming from that place on my body, which was a new way to experience that. I really like a focused meditation, like something to specifically meditate on. I really appreciate that. It helps me with staying here and not going into the many other places. Although I will say I didn't notice it at the time until other people started sharing, but there was a little bit of judgment on the things that I had on my gratitude list, like, oh yeah, don't forget to add this, or I can't believe I haven't thought of that yet. So there was a little bit of that chatter that I didn't even notice until after other people mentioned that they had it. I'm like, oh yeah, I had a little of that too. So yeah, but that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Shay. And great awareness. I'm talking about judgment is a great segue into the main part of what we're going to talk about today, which is about judgment and attachment. And to do so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of, I guess, delve a little bit into the philosophy of meditation, and I'm going to do so from an Asian philosophy perspective. So this is true as much for Buddhism as it is for Hinduism, although my background is probably a lot more trained in Buddhism. So the understanding is that judgment is a root cause of a lot of suffering, and it's something that we do without even noticing all the time with every single thought. Okay, every dress that we see in our wardrobe or shirt or whatever, do I like this, don't I like this, what shall I wear today, involves some sort of a feeling of judgment. And some of that's normal. We need to be able to dress ourselves, right? But it also happens when people pass us in the street. I like this person, I don't like this person. We do it all the time. And the problem with that is when we start to think about like and dislike, is that we attach emotions to them. So with like, we want more of. I like this ice cream, I want more. You know, I like money, I want more. And it leads to grasping. It leads to the opposite of contentment. It leads to this constant wanting and feeling that you don't have enough. And there's suffering within that because there will never be enough. And on the flip side is dislike. The space of dislike is that irritation before anger. It's that repulsion. I don't like you, push you away. I don't like myself. And then all of the feelings that we embody after those thoughts. So part of mindfulness meditation is using our awareness to pick up when we judge something. I like this, I don't like this. Rather than the ability to just say, okay, it's there. I don't need to have a judgment on it. It just is. Because the problem is when we start to judge, in comes the narrative, right? I like this because I dislike this because right? The ego loves narrative. And so by not judging, we're also trying to not identify with what it is that we experience. So if we're experiencing a pain in our lower back, you can just go, all right, I'm listening to my body shift a little bit. Oh, that's better. Or we could go, oh, it's because I'm carrying so much and work is so hard and nobody appreciates me. And you can go into all of this narrative, right? You can tell when the ego's in because it starts I, me. Which is why when we start to use mindfulness meditation, if we notice something arising, we're very cautious about identifying with it. Discomfort is happening. Anxiety is happening. Fear is happening. Without judging ourselves. It's a very compassionate way to look at our thoughts and just to say, okay, they're just arising. Doesn't mean I'm an angry person. Doesn't mean I'm an anxious person. It just means my direct experience right now is that anger is arising and then it abides, right? So we just need to be very, very mindful of judgment and interpretation. And then let me go into, I guess, the role that we're doing right now, which is concentration. We're doing shamatha, which is single-pointed concentration. And this is the bedrock to wisdom. We're assuming that everybody here is leading an ethical life, right? They've not murdered anyone. They haven't got anything on their mind that distracts them. You're meant to have a clean life so that you can have concentration, right? If you're feeling bad about anything, if you've got any residual feelings, you need to resolve them either through meditation or before that so that you can have a single pointed concentration. And when we practice using our breath or our body or our mind as the attention, what we're looking to do is to build stability of that concentration so that it's like an iron rod. And slowly what we're doing is we're patching the gaps between a solid attention and distraction so that it gets stronger. You're able to focus for 10 seconds at a go, 20 seconds, a minute, 10 minutes, however long it takes. So you've got that bedrock of attention solid attention. And when we do that, we can start using it in our everyday life. We start noticing how our mind works. We start calling attention consciously when we are judging, when fear is arising, when anxiety is arising, and we don't attach to it. So this gives us the stability to start noticing things outside of our meditation, when we're off the mat and out in our real life. And Kaylin, you talked about insights as they arise, and that's an amazing thing about meditation. All of these huge things will bubble up because we're giving it the space, and we're giving our body the focus and the attention for things to arise. And what we're trying to do within this shamatha, the single pointed concentration, is go, I've noticed you, and I drop you. Imagine it's in your hand. I just drop you. I just let you go. And there's huge power in that. You can pick it up any time. Anxiety is arising. I just let you go. I don't identify with you. Clear the space and you bring it back. You don't diagnose. You don't identify. You just let it be. Yeah? There is a different type, there are a couple of different types of meditation that we tend to use, either in different sittings or stacked. You know, you could have 20 minutes of your concentration and then 10 minutes of the next type, which is insight meditation. Or I would recommend doing them as separate sittings. Yeah. So you've started to recognize patterns that are arising. You're labeling them, right? I notice my mind attends to this a lot, or I notice that my mind attends to that. Or oh my God, when this arose from my body, I had this huge insight, but I dropped it. I parked it. Yeah. So I didn't identify with it. I want to go and investigate it. And that's what we use insight meditation for. And anyone who's coached with me or who's experienced coaching will, I guess, have experienced this as a structured insight meditation, where you go into yourself and you ask questions and you listen to the wisdom of your body. You listen to the wisdom of your heart, because it knows better than anyone else on the outside what you're going through. And it has all of the compassion that it needs for you. And so we use insight meditation to get to those answers, all at the same time not identifying. Yeah. Then there's a third type of meditation. It's that is used, not so popular, especially in the Western world, but that's devotional meditation. And the psychology behind that is that by prostrating yourself in front of a teacher or a higher God or whatever it is, through that very action of subsuming your own will to another person or another being, you are dissolving your own ego. That's the whole understanding of that. You're just saying, I surrender. Which is why there's so much bowing in Buddhism, or in many of the religions. I give myself and my own free will up, and I surrender, I let go. And that's where the juju is, the magic is, the dissolution of the ego. So when you start looking at how they work in sequence, you've got huge focused awareness, which is what we're focusing on now, concentration, and the ability to stop being distracted, to start noticing how our mind works, what patterns are arising, being able to let them go and be perfectly present and to enjoy that peace. To be able to bring that awareness and that focus into our everyday life and start to notice how we're reacting, start to notice how we're judging, start to notice the narratives and the ego, right? When this comes up for me, I always say ego is arising. Oh yes, ego is arising. And it's a real eye-opener when you can start to do that. And from there, you can start to use meditation or coaching or whatever it is to start getting insights around what that's happening. Because the huge and amazing thing about the concept of not having any ego right? Stopping all the narratives about me being this indivisible self. I am like this, well, that's the way it is. If you start to dissolve that, then you start to realize, actually, I'm not. I am aware that I'm noticing that I'm running on certain programs. I'm aware that I'm repeating key patterns, but I don't have to be. I want to change this program. I want to change that program because I am not an absolute thing. I'm pure potential. I have that plasticity. And this is something that neuroscience is backing up very much. We are a stream of consciousness from one moment to the next. And we change our thoughts in the preceding moment, and we change our programs, it impacts the next moment and onwards and upwards. And that's how we are pure potential. And there's real beauty in that. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Sophie.
Can you say that the narrative you can say, is it the same as the mind chatter?
Yeah, so the narrative is the same as the mind chatter. And it feels very different. And I invite you to listen in on this. So notice what the chatter sounds like, the narrative, the commentary, right? It starts to identify with the ego, right?
Yeah.
It has feelings of nervousness, anxiety, fear. It's all very superficial, although it doesn't feel like it at the time. Okay, it's a hook that tries to lead your attention away. And it's very protective. It's very protective of itself. The ego doesn't want to be disrupted. Whereas if you notice, if you're talking about that, you're looking at insights and you're able to tap into that part of yourself that contains all your wisdom. It feels very different. It sounds very different. So the chatter is auditory. It sounds like a voice. That wisdom, certainly for me, feels like it only needs to whisper something once. Then I can choose to ignore it or not. But once it's said it's profound. It feels completely different. And I know it to be true. The other thing is that the chatter is past or present. Yeah. That wisdom is very centered in the now. About how you're feeling right now, what your body is going through right now. Yeah. Any other questions? It's quite a lot to take in. Yeah. And I noticed the time, we've only got 10 more minutes. So what I was going to do is I was going to give us one more meditation. And that is really going back to our previous practice, which is about building the stability which is the foundation of absolutely everything else. Yeah. Stability to allow the insights separate, to allow the wisdom to happen. So let me just remind you what it is that we're doing. We are using our awareness to notice when our attention wanders. We're labeling it and we're bringing it back to center and experiencing gratitude for noticing the awareness or allowing the awareness to notice the distraction. We're also noticing our state of mind. Are we dull? Are we overexcited? And we're applying the two antidotes. So what we're going to be doing is we're really going to be sharpening the mind. We're going to be sharpening our clarity. We're going to be breathing in on our breath. On our in-breath, we're going to be breathing in and saying to ourselves, clarity. And then really focusing our attention as much as we can on the breath through the tip of our nose, okay, through our nostrils. And then on the out breath, and we can say this in our mind if we like, we're going to be breathing out relaxation, okay? So when you're ready, just take a couple of deep breaths and we're going to drop right in. Okay. And I want you to set your intention for each in and out breath. In, I'm going to breathe in clarity. Get to the end, pause, set your intention, out breath. I am going to breathe out relaxation. See if you can get to 10 in and out breaths using clarity and relaxation without distraction. And if you're distracted, just reset with gratitude. Notice your pause and your out breath, and at the end of your in breath. You can use it to punctuate your intention. And try perceiving all parts of your breath equally. You can use 3 or 4 sensations on both the in and the out breath to help you do so. You can focus on the warmth, the feeling of air, any tingling sensations. Notice, are you breathing through one side of your nostrils or the other? Do you tend to lose focus more on the in-breath or the out-breath? And using your clarity, I want you to take a moment now to set your intention for the day or for the week. And when you're ready, slowly bring your attention back into your body and into the room. I think that meditation could have gone longer, but I'm aware it's 8:30 and I didn't want to abuse any of your time. So I'm happy to stay on if anyone has any questions. But if anyone needs to leave now, let me quickly just set some homework for you. So please do continue with your 20 minutes every day of meditation. This time we are increasing the subtlety of our attention to the tip of our nose. Yeah, it requires much more stability and a sharpened mind. If you feel you're unable to do this, return to the abdomen, breath at the abdomen. Yeah, particularly if you're feeling dull and it's not working for you. Yeah. And then the other bit is, I want you to start noticing in your everyday life the judgments and the interpretations. Yeah. I want you to start trying to drop into a space where you are experiencing, just without concept, without conceptualizing anything, without judgment, without narrative. And if you do start narrating, use your awareness to go, high five, I just spotted that. That's amazing. Because we're trying to train that muscle. Yeah. And the real reward is to allow our awareness to bring this to mind. What is it that our mind attends to? What are the stories that we always tell about this, that, others, myself? Yeah. So if anyone needs to go, that's fine. But does anyone have any questions or feedback?
Thank you.
Bye, Susie.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day all.
Thank you.
It was all good. Thank you. I gotta get going indeed, but thank you.
All right. See you next week.
See you next week. All
Bye.
right. Yes, bye-bye.
I'll share with you
Yeah.
that's interesting because it really drew my attention to, I was okay on the clarity, but the relaxation, that's where I noticed I was drifting. That's where I noticed I wanted to fill that space. And it was a real aha moment, because I mean, yeah, I just could really resonate with the fact that trying to relax is where all the noise comes. And it's like, no, you can't relax. You've got to fill that space with something. And that's something I've been trying to work on, is that I need that me time. I need that downtime. I need that relaxation time to just be. And it's okay not to fill that space. So it resonated like with what we were talking about in the coaching as well, because I don't have to fill the relaxation with anything and just be. So that was a really good. And look, at one point I was like, yeah, I'm getting up to 5. And then I'm like, no, you're not. And it was like 1. Okay, 1.
Yeah.
Okay, 1. It was crazy. crazy. So it went on. I think eventually I might have got to a 2 at one point, but it was just, that activity, I've now got this awareness of the mind just wants something to fill that relaxation breath out. So yeah, that was really good.
That was amazing awareness. Yeah, it's kind of like waves going in and out, right? Where you have clarity and relaxation. And I completely get you. Most of the distraction happens with the relaxation part, but it's an essential part of the sea, right? It needs to come back out for it to come back in, and that's the same very much with our bodies and our relaxation.
I'm glad you just used the sea, because again, the thinking as I'm doing it, it's like if you could just get in the rhythm, you would be fine. But again, I was thinking that, like trying to work out what the rhythm was. But maybe, that flow. It's something I'm going to work on. It's just great awareness today with this one. Well done.
Well done to you. Thank you, Kayleen.
Fabulous. All right, well, I've got to go. So I will see you Tuesday, and I'll see you next week, Darren.
Thanks, Kayleen.